So in this video series, I'm going to make a end-to-end ML project. So for this project, I'm going to make a ANN model, then read my data, do some pre-processing on it. Okay. And then build my ANN using PyTorch. And then I'm going to give this data to my ANN. I'm going to train it and I'm going to do inference. So for data handling, I'm going to use Pandas and Scikit-learn. So these are the topics that we're going to cover. We're going to cover Pandas, Scikit-learn and PyTorch. And in this process, we are going to see how a end-to-end ML project works. So let us start with data, the most important part. So in this problem, I'm going to take this diamonds dataset, which is a very classic dataset available. And if you go to the Kaggle page, we can see what are the columns that are present in the diamonds dataset. So it's price, carat, cut. So there's so many features in this, and we are trying to predict the price of the diamond in dollars. Okay, so let us try to download this data. I'm going to download the dataset into my computer, and then I'm going to work on this. So my data is downloaded here. So this is my project folder. I named it AML. So I'm going to make a separate folder for data. So my diamonds.csv goes here, and remaining source code goes in my source folder. That's great. Now I have my data here. So let us make a separate folder for all the data related tasks. So I'm naming it as data, and inside this I'm going to create a file for just reading the data. Okay, let us call this reader.py. Okay, so this is going to just read the data. So there are many forms in which we can read the data. So we can read from database, we can read from some other extension apart from CSV. So but since our data is in CSV format, let us make a function specifically to read this CSV file. Okay, let us call it load CSV. So it will accept the string as an input. Okay, so let us call that file path. So this is going to be basically the path along with the file name of my diamonds.csv. Okay, that is going to be the input. So I'm giving type hints here. So this file path should be a string, and I'm going to return a pandas data frame. So let me import my pandas. I'm going to return a pandas data frame here. That's it. Now what we can write in this function, the simplest would be to just return pd dot read csv and okay, the file path. Okay, this would give a data frame, but in a production level code we have to handle several cases. Suppose what if the file path is wrong, if they have given an empty file path, or what if that file path is wrong, such a file path doesn't exist, or if they have given just a directory name without the actual file name like diamonds.csv. So we have to handle all these scenarios. So let us handle all the cases. So let me handle the first case. If the string is empty, if the file path is empty. So how we handle empty file paths is that if we put that file path in the if condition. So if the file path is empty, it's going to return an empty string, right? So empty string is nothing but it's a false in Python. So if this is what is returned by file path, if it is empty, so that is going to be translated into false. So this condition is not going to be executed. So if you want this to be executed when the file path is empty, I'm going to put a not. Okay, so when this returns false, not of false will become true, and then I can handle this case when the file path is empty. Okay, so I can raise a value error. Okay, since I expected some value for file path, but I did not get the expected value. I got something else which is wrong, that is blank. Okay, so I'm going to say file path is empty. Okay, but what if the user is passing, like is calling my load CSV with some spaces? Okay, this is not empty, right? So this is not going to return an empty string. It's not going to return false. So this is not going to be true, and I'm not going to raise the value error, right? So to handle this kind of scenario, I'm going to use strip. Okay, so when we pass an empty string with spaces, it's going to strip all the spaces and it's going to return this empty string. Okay, it's going to return this. And when it returns that empty string, this becomes false, so not of that becomes true, and I can again raise the same value error saying that file path is empty. Okay, let me demonstrate if it is working or not. So I'm calling this load CSV with an empty string. Okay, so let me call this, let us see what happens. So I get a value error, right? File path is empty. So if I just remove the spaces and run it again, so it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to get a value error saying file path is empty. Okay, so let us handle the next case. So what else could go wrong with the file path? One is that file path may not exist at all. So for handling this case, I'm going to use another library. So it's called pathlib. So in this we are going to import path. So let us convert our string into a path. Okay, so my file path is a string as of now. If I pass it to path, it becomes a path object. Okay. Now this path object has a lot of useful functions. Okay, like path dot. So you can check exists is one or the functions that we will be using. So if path dot exists, then it becomes true. If it doesn't exist, this path dot exists becomes false. So if I write not again, so whenever this path dot exists is false, I'm going to execute this line of code. Okay, so I'm going to raise again a value error saying this file path is not valid. Okay. So let us give the user whatever the directory he has entered, right? So file path. So this way user can see that whatever he has entered and check whether such a directory and such a file name exists or not. So let us demonstrate whether this works or not. Okay, let me call my load CSV. Let me give the correct path first. Okay, the correct path is data diamonds dot CSV. Let us see if this works or not. So I think it is successful, so it did not raise any value error. Let us change it to diamonds1.csv. Since there is no such file as diamonds1.csv, this should raise a value error. Let us confirm that. Yes, so it has raised a value error. It says file path is not valid. Okay, file path is not valid, and the path that we entered. So the path that we entered is data diamonds1.csv. So there is no such file called diamonds1.csv. So this is also handled. Okay, if invalid path. Okay, now what is the next case that we can handle? Suppose instead of a file name, they have mentioned the directory and they did not mention the file name. Okay, that's a very common scenario, right? So we can handle that scenario also if file path is a directory. Okay, I think instead of value error, I think this is file not found error. And yeah, that will be more accurate, right? So such a file does not exist, so file not found error is the right error to be used there. Okay, let us now check if the path that they entered is a directory or not. Okay, so let us write this return statement in the end, and let us check for the if this file path whatever they entered, if it is a directory or not. Okay, is directory is the function name. So if path is directory, this is going to return true, and I'm going to raise the error. Okay, so raise is a directory error. Okay, so entered path is the directory. Okay, expected file path. Okay, we can raise this error. Okay, once again let us test this also. What if I give just data and just leave it? It's a directory, right? Let us see if it raises this is a directory error. Yes, it raised that error. It's a directory error. Okay, I think we can even mention whatever they have given, right? Whatever file path they have given, we can mention that. Okay, let us run the same code now. So it says is a directory error, entered path is a directory, expected file path. Okay, this message may not be very nice. Expected a file path. Okay, but received. Okay, this sounds more correct. So entered path is a directory, expected a file path, but received data slash. Okay, this is somewhat more reasonable than the earlier one I have written. Okay, so we have handled if the file path is a directory, if it is an invalid file, or if the file is empty. What other error is there which we can handle? So we can check if it is an actual CSV file, right? Suppose they might have given, suppose diamonds.txt. That may be that's a valid file name, right? And like with the correct path, it's a valid file path. It's not a directory, and path exists. Okay, but the thing is, okay, it's not empty. But the issue is we are trying to read a CSV file, so we expect that to be a CSV file. But if they give txt file, so we should raise some error, right? So let us handle this if it is not a CSV file. So how do we handle this? We have a function called ends with. Okay, it works on the string, not the file path. Okay, so what I mean by path is we made the path object, right? It doesn't work on this, it works on the direct string. So the direct string is this file path. Okay, so let us try to check dot ends with. Okay, CSV. So if the file ends with CSV, this is going to be true, but if it doesn't end, it's going to be false. But I want it to be executed here, so I'm going to put a not. So whenever it doesn't end with a CSV file, it gives a false, and not of that will become true. So here I'm going to raise value error. Okay, expected CSV file but received. Let us give whatever path they mentioned. Okay. Let me just create a dummy file called diamonds.txt so that it doesn't raise that file not found error, right? So let me call this with diamonds.txt. Let us see if it raises this expected CSV file error. Yes, it raised a value error. It says expected CSV file but received data diamonds.txt. Okay, so we handled this error also. I think we're good enough. We have handled almost all the errors, so we can just close this function. So a function load CSV accepts a string which is the complete path of the data. Okay, I'm going to delete this diamonds.csv, so diamonds.txt, which I no longer require. Okay, so it takes that as input. It checks for various errors that the user can make, like the file being empty or invalid path or entering a directory or not entering a CSV file. And then if all these checks are complete and if it's a valid CSV file, we are going to read the CSV file and we are going to return the data frame to the user. Okay, so this part concludes our data reading part. In the next session, we are going to see about the data pre-processing that needs to be done on this data, and let us implement some pre-processing functions that we can apply on this data. Okay, see you in the next lecture.